Welcome to our 5 on 5. We're pleased to welcome back Medford Police Chief Tim George. Chief, welcome, first of all.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so...
Happy Friday.
Yeah, thank you. Happy Friday to you. So, a recent study done by the group 24/7 Wall Street ran in the big national paper USA Today, and I know you're not happy about this. The study got their stats from the FBI's Uniform Crime Report. They ranked Medford #2 in cities where crime is soaring. That's their words.
That's their words.
What do you think of that?
Well, again, the Uniform Crime Report, and that's my pitch here today, is that the Uniform Crime Report is anything but uniform because there's a lot of variables in it, number one, and number two, it's how things are classified and how other agencies actually follow the federal guidelines as to what's an aggravated assault or what isn't an aggravated assault and what fits in the guidelines. So we went back and looked, because I started looking at those other comparables in other cities reporting. That's the first thing, and I noticed that our aggravated assaults were really out of whack. They should be somewhat consistent. You might see a slight increase because of an increase in population, an increase over time. Obviously, we're a different community now than we were in 2009. You're also, the FBI is always a year behind in their stats. They're looking from 2009 to 2013. That's the piece they're looking at for the increase. And here we are, we're already in 2015. So when we looked at it, went back and did an audit of our aggravated assaults for 13 and 14, we were able to change the classification for about 125 of those from in the 350 range down to the 200, 220 range.
So how does that work? Is different agencies define aggravated differently?
Well, there's the federal definition of an aggravated assault, but essentially some of the menacings, which is a misdemeanor, count as an aggravated assault based on that definition. Some of the assaults were actually, we were a little too liberal in that definition and classifying those as aggravated assaults when in fact they were simple assaults. An example would be if someone took a shoe, said, I'm going to beat you up, I'm going to do something, and they threw a shoe at you or threw a water ball at you or whatever. Is that an aggravated assault? Well, some people say by definition it could have been because the threat was there and there was an intent to cause you harm, but in reality you didn't sustain a serious injury. You were basically the victim of a simple assault or maybe even a harassment, and it doesn't reach that level. Someone may have menaced a crowd with a knife before they got in their car and drove off. Menacing with a knife would count as an aggravated assault even though there wasn't an injury there. There's no Oregon revised statute for aggravated assault. Assaults are defined by misdemeanors or felonies, and so there's some flop there. And I'm looking at comparable cities that report, you'll see cities that have twice our population that have about the same number of aggravated assaults. So that's almost an impossibility. Just based on what I'm kind of a statistical nut, and I've looked at numbers for a long time.
Well, it's paying off today.
Well, I mean, what gets measured gets done. I'm not saying that we don't have our share of crime in Medford. We do. I will agree with that, and certainly have more crime in 2013 than we had in 2009, but not to the extent. When we went back and did reworked those numbers, we went from about an 80% increase to about a 49% increase. So it changes dramatically. But the other thing that you have to understand is when the FBI is doing this Uniform Crime Report, we're getting lumped in with all of Jackson County with those other agencies that are reporting those crimes. And I want to get the exact term that it's called, but I believe it's called well, here it is right here.
MSA, was it?
An MSA, which is a Metropolitan Statistical Area. So not only does it count for just the city of Medford's violent crime, but it's counting all the other cities in Jackson County that report to the state. You report to state, which is LEDS, which is run by OSP, and then FBI takes a portion of those statistics.
So even though Medford is the one that's ranked #2, the numbers are far bigger than Medford.
They're far bigger than Medford because it's the statistical area, the Medford, Oregon MSA, just like Bismarck, North Dakota, and it counts certain counties and other cities. It's counting those in totality, number one. And again, number two, when you're looking at the increase, you're talking about the percentage increase, what you had in 2009 to what you had in 2015. So total numbers may not be that high, but it's the increase that they're quoting as, well, crime is soaring because you had an 80% increase. Well, like you said earlier before we went on camera, we could have a very traumatic event like the Corrado homicides.
Yes, certainly.
So your homicide rate could go from tragedy. You had one homicide last year, and this year you had 6. Well, you had one instance where you had 5 in one terrible case. So that really throws your numbers out of whack too. So really, a percentage of what? What are the numbers actually mean? And so I guess my other pitch would be is you got to look at what's happened in the last 2 years. In the last 2 years, we've actually had double-digit reductions in assault cases. And in your violent crime in our community, pretty much throughout the entire state of Oregon, aggravated assaults make up about 70% of the violent crime. FBI is only looking at 4 things in violent crime. Looking at homicides, looking at rapes, robberies, and aggravated assaults. Those are the 4 things. Aggravated assaults are about 70% of those numbers. In Oregon, in Jackson County, in Medford, if you're going to be the victim of a violent crime, the overwhelming majority is going to be that you know the person that commits the crime against you, especially in an aggravated assault situation. And things changed in Oregon with the strangulation statute during that 2009 to 2013. Strangulation fits the definition of an aggravated assault. Most strangulations are occurring in domestic violence situations. So again, strangulation becomes a crime in Oregon, and strangulation becomes a crime that fits the federal definition of an aggravated assault. And so again, those are cases that are occurring between people that know each other. And those are very difficult to have impact on crime prevention-wise, but we are doing something pretty interesting, and if we're going to shift gears, I want to tell you how we're going to try and prevent some of that from happening.
I'd love to. We don't have the time. Maybe next time you can bring the PowerPoint. We can go through every one of these. You can do the audio-visual presentation. I appreciate it. Good to see you, man. Thank you.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.